Hey everybody, it's Billy Watkins here with the Whole Package by Premier Packaging. Today's guest is Adam House, our I gotta read this because it's fairly new, right? Our senior manufacturing support specialist for Premier. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'll tell you, I've done I've lost count of how many of these I've done. But this is the first one that, for whatever reason, I feel like just saying, screw it, let's blow this taco stand and go get a drink.
Sounds good. I can ask you some questions.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background. We should have been rolling the cameras earlier because we've been doing is
change the film.
Would have been done.
Change the film out.
All we've been doing is talking about corrugated for the past 30 years.
No, I'm from Louisville. Out of high school, went in the Marines. I was in there for 4 years, got out of there, and started my career in corrugated in 1999 with the Integrateds.
What, being in the Marines for 4 years, and thank you for your service, where were you?
Well, we were on our way to Bosnia, and then something kicked off in Monrovia, and which turned into Operation Assured Response at the embassy. So it was us and SEAL Team 2 on our ship that we had to go in there, evacuate the embassy, then fortify the embassy until we were relieved probably about 3 months later.
What have you taken from that experience and being in the Marines that has carried with you?
I'd say leadership. I mean, because leadership in that environment's pretty much on the most extreme level, and so a lot of the basics of that it carries over into civilian life. I mean, it's not as rugged, maybe, or
right. You're not securing
embassies.
It's
a different world, but the principles are the same. Basically it boils down to leadership, training, knowing what to do when there's a problem, and then being able to build like solid teams. Training basically is what it boils down to.
And a lot of this comes down to training, right?
That's right.
So you worked, as you said, at an integrated company for about 15 years before joining us. What was how did you end up here?
Well, we were supplying sheets for 3,900. This is back in the mid 2000s, and
our first manufacturing facility up the street
right.
here. Yep.
Yeah, relatively new here, I guess they were, and they were a customer of ours, and there was an issue, and our corrugator was down, so I was out on the plant, and then I got a call to come up front. I came up front, and our sales rep was up there. And he was like, man, I need you to come down here to Premier with me. We got a problem. And I'm like, well, what's the problem? And he walked me through what the problem was. Basically, he told me the other guy I brought down here, Jason Stennett, pretty much threw him out of the plant. And I was like, okay. So we jumped the car, and on the way down here, he's kind of telling me what's going on. So I come in down here. We go out there to the dock, and Stennett's standing out there. And, he's like, we introduce each other, and I'm like, well, what's the problem? So he opens up a dock door on a trailer, and it looked like them sheets in there looked like a bunch of cars that fell over.
Yeah, all over the place.
And he said, can you tell me what's wrong with that? And I said, absolutely. We didn't put enough banding tension on our mainline bander. Would you like me to have one of our drivers come pick it up, and we'll restack it for you? What do you need? And he just... Basically what he did was he looked at our sales rep and he said, from now on, the only person I'm dealing with is him, and he pointed at me.
Yeah, he liked your honesty
and
your ability.
Little did we both know, we both came up the same way. I was a plant superintendent, but I got there the long, slow way from the floor up, and then he came up in his career the same way. So anyway, we exchanged phone numbers. Anytime he had a problem, he'd just call me direct. I'd drive down here, and I'd say over the course of about a year and a half, 2 years, we got bought out again by another integrated company. I was in the same spot, but we went through 2 different buyouts by 2 major integrateds. And after that second buyout, he kind of knew some of the background on that from his past. I started thinking about maybe it's time for me to make a move. And so I started calling him and talking to him. Do you have anything available? And we started talking, came down here, interviewed 2 or 3 times. And I thought it over because it was hard for me to quit a job, because when you go straight from the military straight to what you think is going to be,
your lifetime career,
you just don't think about it. I thought I would just be, there forever. And so long story short, I just made up the move, and I'll be here, or made up my mind to move. I'll be here 10 years next year.
Very nice. I guess it goes to show that it's the corrugated business is it's a little rough and tumble, and you can work in a place and do good, and maybe it gets bought out, and maybe that's part of working at integrated places. So what do you find different than working here at Premier? There is a difference.
Oh
in
yeah,
there.
like when I first got here, I was just mind blown by it. Felt like lack of like structure. Because coming, from the integrated, things are very structured, and I don't like using the word strict. It's just a different environment, different market of business. And then coming here, I thought right out of the gate, I was like, man, things look pretty loose, like just. But once I started realizing our business and how we operate, and one of the main things I thought was different was just the enthusiasm of the people I was working with here. I didn't see a lot of that in my world. In my world, basically, you were just strictly judged off performance. If you got results, you got promoted. If you did not, you got removed. I was okay in that environment, but coming down here, the value of the customer service piece, the commitment to do whatever it takes to serve the customers. It felt like from the integrated world, it was more of, here's our price, here's what we offer, take it or leave it.
It is what it is.
And then you come to Premier, and it was like people, I'm hearing these stories, jumping on airplanes and flying tape to someplace, or getting in their truck and driving stuff down the street. It was just like the all hands on deck approach to servicing the customer, and everybody was all in with that. So that seemed to be the real difference, which is a positive thing. I'm still here,
For sure, yeah.
Right.
Before your the current job you have now, you were corrugated planning and scheduling manager. What did that entail exactly?
Well, we've grown. Obviously, we got 6 manufacturing plants, and about probably almost a year and a half ago, the executives started coming together and realizing we might need to start centralizing. And the whole purpose of our team was to basically manage all 6 plants' backlog and capacity. And then if one of our CSRs, instead of having to deal with 6 plants, figuring out where your order runs, tracking it all down, you send that to one team, and this team I was a part of managed it all.
Yeah.
Like, you call us, it's a small team, and we handle what need to be handled. So backlog, capacity, trying to make sure we don't overbook a plant. We've got all this firepower now with 6 plants. We want to utilize our equipment. So there was this scrub every day of, in questions, why are we buying this out? Why are we not running it?
Right.
So that was a big piece of it too, because it's pretty obvious, I think, going through COVID, what we learned is we need to gain more control over what
Our
goes
destiny.
on. Exactly.
Yeah.
And when we control it, you just feel a whole lot more secure than having to depend on people outside your organization.
Right, and not that we don't have great partners, but
Great
at the end of the day,
yes.
if you've got machines and they're not running, they're not making money, right? Yeah.
Well, and we're willing to do things that we just do what we got to do to get it done, and there are certain barriers, I think, when you get outside of your own control, then you're kind of at the mercy of whatever
Everyone else,
right?
yeah.
And it's better when you control it.
We're certainly past it now, and things have changed. But how hard was it during the pandemic and the subsequent boom of e-commerce? How hard was it to secure corrugated and
It was
things
tough
going?
because, like I said, I think that's where we really learned the lesson. Like, if we got shut off from suppliers, we just learned that you have to be so reliant upon things outside of your control. And then the boom of the business, and then just dealing with, the health and the safety precautions we did. We're coming in there on Sundays and spraying the plant down, with COVID spray or whatever that stuff was, know.
Yeah.
And but what you started learning, or what I thought about going through that whole experience, was we got to be better at contingency planning. What's plan B? What's plan C? What's plan D? Because who saw that coming, right?
Right.
It came out of nowhere. The next thing you know, everything's turned upside down. So yeah, it was a struggle, but I think we learned a lot. Just you managed through it, man.
And you think we're in a better place now?
Absolutely,
because of it? Yeah,
absolutely.
stronger.
There's still some struggles. Not yeah, we're in a far better place as far as I think a lot of places didn't survive COVID. A lot of businesses didn't make it, and we made it and didn't really lose plants, or we just made it through it, and here we are, and taking care of it.
you have a lot of responsibilities. You serve as SME for all our manufacturing processes, from reading job tickets, setting up machines, machine inspections, troubleshooting on all the corrugated equipment. I mean, how do you handle that?
Well, there's two pieces of training there. There's the ASI, the X's and the O's. Here's how you enter a job ticket. Here's how you do that. Then the other piece of the training is the hands-on, on the floor troubleshooting. It's teaching people to think. I think there's the training involved of just this is how ASI works. Here's how you do this. Here's how you do that. But then the other piece is being in the plant, on the floor with the people at whatever level, site manager on through to operators or whoever, training them how to think and solve problems, because in this world, running these machines is a skill. It's not it takes time, and there's raw material variances in the raw materials we have to deal with, and the more you train people and the more you impart to them troubleshooting techniques and how you whittle a problem down to its simplest form, and then you got to know what to do, because I think a lot of times people just don't know how to get down to the bare bones of what's the problem. The root cause. You hear all these symptoms and opinions, but identify the problem, and then you got to know what to do and how to fix it.
Right. How many different machines are we talking about
Oh,
here?
man, we got, mainly so far what I've been involved with is our primaries, flexos, die cutters,
Right.
gluers. We do have specialty equipment. There's the bagging machines and other things. I mean, primarily so far, I've only been doing this, 2 weeks, something like that. Spent time in Indy, little time in Lebanon. So, it's kind of I'm more of a resource. If it's not broke, I'm not there to fix it.
Right.
If you need help, if you need, like in Indy, I'm working with a lot of operators that have been in the company only 6 months. It took me years to become an operator.
And we talked about this before offline. No matter how new a piece of equipment is and how automated it is and all the whiz bangs, I mean, really, it's still there's
people,
a huge
man.
training
Absolutely.
element with the people running it, right?
Yeah, and I was fortunate coming up in the business. I had people, that'd been in the plant longer than I've been alive training me, and it was the long, slow way of coming up in a plant. Now, Premier, I still consider it a relatively young company.
Yeah.
And, we have some senior tenured employees, but we've got a lot of new people that are on critical machines, operators, that push the speed buttons and make the adjustments and make decisions. And it's even at the supervisor level and all the way through the whole thing. And it's all training is what it boils down to me. And when somebody gets trained, they get confident. And confidence in my world's a good thing. Like, if you feel good that you're making the right decision, then success.
Yeah. Or that you can get to the right
That's right.
answer, that you can.
That's right.
Yeah,
and when you get out there on the floor and there's a problem, from jam ups to this to that, and you're with them and you're walking them through the troubleshooting steps, step by steps, and then you kind of see them do it, you start thinking, okay, you're getting it.
Being someone who has been in this business for a decent amount of time, has made a career out of it, what can you, for someone who may have just stumbled upon a podcast from a corrugated company who's looking for a job, well, speak to what it is like, what it can afford.
Well,
someone.
when I started in '99, I was 2 weeks out of the Marines, and part of my interview process, they asked me to read a tape measure. I couldn't do it. That's not what I did in the Marines. And at the time, they were only hiring veterans and friends and family of the plant, because the plant I came in, there was like 3 generations of people, grandpa, dad, and son, right? They were very selective on who they hired. And luckily for me, they just took a shot. They would ask me questions like, how many times did you call in the past 4 years? I mean, I'm like, what? If you just have a good attitude, like if you want to learn this stuff, you can. And it's been like a great career for me. I started in '99, first job was the baler. And if you just apply yourself and you want to get involved and you want to learn, you want to grow, like, the sky's the limit.
Right.
The piece about Premier, I was pretty much landlocked into just manufacturing and the integrateds. But coming here, I've learned so much aspects of the business, the customer service side, the being a buyer on the CFT team, just different aspects that I would have never been exposed to possibly in the integrated world. And when you start learning the big picture, and then you're the one doing the training, with key people, whether it's a scheduler or an hourly operator or a site manager or a supervisor, you can tie it all together.
Everything makes a little more sense, and you see it from, yeah.
And the more you communicate that down to everybody that's around, the more they understand it too. So
also, as part of your role, you're developing training content for all the manufacturing floor roles. What's the secret to good training?
I think it's teaching people how to troubleshoot a problem, like I said earlier, teaching people to think in terms of stripping it down to the simplest form. And really, the toughest job, the hardest job I ever had in my career is a frontline supervisor.
Okay.
If you can pull that job off, you can do anything, I believe. And if you stick with the manufacturing side.
What was the challenging part?
You're the meat between the bread, I mean, you're dealing with it all, your plant numbers, your goals, the people on the floor, their needs and their issues. And if you can do that, you'll be successful. But back to the training, it's teaching people to troubleshoot. It's teaching people to gain control of the environment they're in. A lot of times you can't help your circumstances. Oh, the stock's a little warped. Oh, the machine's jamming up. When you start letting the machine run you or the situation run you, it makes for a long, miserable day. But when you accept the fact that I can't handle the circumstance I'm in, but I do control how I handle it.
Right.
I do control how I'm going to run this. I'm not going to fight it. And you build that into hands-on training, because the only way I know to do that is in their world, in their environment, at their machine, with them.
Right.
Right there.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's amazing. Words to live by, though. Do you consider yourself a teacher? I mean,
Sure.
You've
What do you want to know?
I'm learning right now.
Man, I mean, in this world, I guess, because a lot of it comes from experience.
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate, even through the Marines, through my career. I've learned, I've watched things that work. I've watched things that don't work. I've learned good and bad from good and bad leadership, and I've been able to apply what works and put my own piece into it. But yeah, you have to speak the language. You have to be in their environment, and when you come from what they're dealing with, it carries a lot of weight too.
Certainly.
You
Yeah.
know.
You understand
Sure.
where they're at.
Been
Yeah.
there, get it. All part of the team.
You've been traveling around as we talked about. You've been to Indy and Lebanon. Now Lebanon's the one in Pennsylvania. I'm an idiot.
Lebanon's in Ohio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's Rebecca's plant, and that plant is perfect for what we need. It runs small quantities, because what we're trying to do, all the investments in Louisville with these high-speed machines in this triplex area, we're moving stuff around.
Mm-hmm.
What makes the most sense to run in Louisville? It's the high-quantity truckload stuff, because that's what those machines do.
Right.
Rebecca's plant is not designed for truckloads; it's the smaller stuff. And then you got Indy, that's kind of the buffer between them both. So they're all relatively close. So that's what James and Melissa and that team's doing. They're moving the pieces of the puzzle around. And the other three plants are spread out a lot further, obviously. But in this triplex here, there's a lot of firepower. I think it's just sometimes if we put the pieces of the puzzle in the wrong spot, you're overbooking a plant or you're running one out.
Right.
And we've got a lot of moving parts just between these three, but it's bringing it all together.
Will you make it to all of them, I assume?
I mean, I assume. I'm just right now plugging in where, just like here in Indy and in Lebanon, it's kind of going where the need is. That's how I kind of look at it. Like I said, if it's not broke, I'm not there to fix it. And but when people need help, I'll be there.
You're there for them. That is reassuring.
Hey, you got to be all in, right?
If I ever need help, I want to call you. I kind
you
of feel
call
that
me,
way.
man, and I will help you.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. It's been a while since we've seen each other.
It's been a minute.
So this is better than a podcast. It's
me?
like talking to a buddy. Yeah,
Really?
I did. Do you do this every day? Do you drive a motorcycle to work every day?
No.
No.
I'm a grandpa now, man.
So you're not doing
I still got the bike, but I'm more into being pap and 3 grandsons, and I don't know. I mean, it's there in the garage. I'll probably never get rid of it, but I already got a son-in-law that's wanting it, and who knows.
I was kind of hoping. I thought it would have been nice, as
You want me to take you for a ride?
as the closing shot today would
You going with
us
me?
pulling out. If you'd let, I don't
Really?
have. I don't have a helmet with me.
but
Could I wear a
we'll
hard
live
hat?
on the wild side, man. I don't wear, man, no. Go
All
with
right.
it.
we're gonna do that. I've never been. They scare the heck out of me. I think the first time, if I ever get on a motorcycle, I'm assuming that within 20 seconds, I'd just lay it down.
It's like riding a bike, man. Really, literally, it's just riding a bicycle with an engine in it.
Well, I'm not very good at that either.
Yeah, you'd be in trouble then.
Adam, I could talk to you all day, so thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm ready to go get that drink now.
Anytime.
It's Friday. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. This is Billy Watkins and Adam House for the Whole Package by Premier Packaging. See you soon.
Do you have comments, questions, or ideas about this topic? If so, we'd like to hear from you. Please visit primpack.com/podcast to let us know what you think. Thanks.